What is this Games of Thrones? I'm far too old. I don't even own a television. I've got a wireless. That's about it.
I imagine it involves lots of people on the toilet, which is the throne, gaming on their laptop.
Oh, Mr. Richards, you are terribly droll. No, it's about... there's a lot of sex and violence, to be honest.
Is there a throne?
There is indeed a throne, but not of the... Oh, no, hang on a minute, yeah. Spoiler alert, that guy gets killed when he's on the loo, doesn't he?
Sorry?
Any idea? Do you know? I swear that was like the season finale, like last year. Somebody got shot or something while he was on the loo.
Slain on Thrones, then. Just putting that out there. You know, he was slain on the throne.
I'm going to go home. That was terrible. And now we found the one thing Ben Richards must not do.
I've activated dad joke mode on my brain.
Oh, God.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back to the Whovian vlog.
Yes.
Yes.
We've broken the mould.
Marginally broken the mould. We kind of alternated Sunday and Thursday, and now we're doing it on Monday. So just plot twist, really.
Massive plot twist.
Massive plot twist. Yeah, we just do what we want, to be perfectly honest. But we hope you enjoy it anyway.
Yes.
Gentlemen, The Girl Who Died.
The Girl Who Died.
In itself, the title is kind of a spoiler, let's face it.
Well, yeah, because there's a girl and she nearly dies, really.
Well, she does die, to an extent, yeah.
Yeah, but not... Yeah, but then she's sort of reincarnated then, isn't she?
Well, she's kind of brought back. She's kind of the new Captain Jack, isn't she? She's brought back permanently.
Yeah.
I tell you what, can I just say? I tell you what I'm very glad about. People were saying on the internet, oh, maybe she's a time lady because the girl who died and then the woman who lived, it sounds like she would kind of regenerate. Maybe she, maybe such and such. And I said, and I hope she wasn't, to be honest, because I didn't think that would have been a particularly good thing.
No, but it turns out that she actually wasn't that.
No, she was a normal human girl. And then aliens attacked and she got killed in the process of defeating them. I was surprised. I thought the Viking thing was going to last both episodes.
No, well, yeah, that's the thing. Is that it's important to mention here that this episode is, whilst part of a two-parter, is equally a standalone episode on its own.
It's
really,
fairly standalone. Yeah, it could. It would work if we didn't see her again until later in the series.
Yeah, but what
it
I
would
would
completely
say,
work as a standalone episode. Yeah.
What I would say is that if it was a standalone episode, I don't think I'd be rating it particularly highly, because I would say that the plot was a bit basic. But I think that's okay because I think this is a very character-driven two-parter, and I don't think we really realised that until the very end of the episode.
Yeah, it was very and particularly the bits kind of middle to end, when we sort of saw the farmers and the man, cuddling his daughter and the man with the baby and stuff, and we realised actually these are, people, these are, there's a bit of comic relief and stuff at the beginning, and then we realised actually no, they are, they're real people with feelings and stuff.
Obviously, one of the big things, if you have, obviously you should have seen it if you're listening to this, but one of the big things was that we finally understand why the Doctor has the face of what was his name? The Roman bloke who was also played by Peter in The Fires of Pompeii.
Honestly, Ben, you clearly didn't do didn't do the Latin course, the Cambridge Latin course.
Well, the word Cecilius was ringing in my head, and I thought, no, that's not right. It was fairly close, though. I'll give myself a 7 for that one.
But we're breaking everything now.
Yeah, could I just say that I really hope... Yeah, I really hope that there's a bit more to it in this next episode, because to be honest, I thought it was a bit of a cop-out, this explanation. I just thought it was a bit like, I was expecting some kind of quite complex, quite, aha, I would never have expected, because it's quite an obvious, straightforward explanation that anybody could have come up with, really.
Yeah,
And
I see what you mean. Yeah.
it's a sort of bit like, well, I had this face to remind myself that I'm here to look after people. I hope, maybe there's a, maybe
Well,
it's
not just look after people, but the fact that he can break the rules of time,
perhaps
to save people.
Maybe it's directly linked with this particular episode, if you get what I mean. Maybe what we see in the second episode of the two-parter is we actually see that the reason is very specific, and that the reason why it's very specific is because he has to do something with this Maisie Williams character that enables.
Or perhaps, well, I'm fairly sure we're going to see the results of the ripples. We're going to see what,
Yes.
what happens to her as she kind of, because she survives through the years. I tell you what, she's going to have to learn another language, because she would have spoken Norse, wouldn't she? She would have been speaking old Scandinavian Norse. So,
do you know what was quite amusing?
Do you reckon when we meet her in the present, she'll be speaking English with a kind of vague Scandinavian accent?
Oh, that would be quite cool.
That would be quite cool. If Maisie Williams is a good at accents.
I don't watch very much Blackadder, right? But I imagine you've watched Blackadder, Milo. Have you watched Blackadder?
Have I? I've watched Blackadder. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So obviously every series of Blackadder is in a different era, of a different historical era. Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah. It's medieval, Tudor, things, World War I.
Georgian, and then
Georgian and World War I.
So what I got a little bit of I watched an episode of Blackadder the other night, and my friend explained to me that this happened, it changes every series, and I got this feeling that the second part of this two-parter is going to be sort of Georgian era, and the first part is very Nordic Viking era. So it reminded me a little bit of how Blackadder worked in that sense, because it's sort of, she's we see her in the Next Time trailer wearing all of this sort of Georgian garb and all that sort of stuff. So that's quite interesting. I thought that was quite. I did a little analogy there, my funny little mind in one dusty corner of my mind.
That's good. That works actually. Yeah. But then again, Doctor Who is a time travel show.
Yeah.
So we're going to see her in Georgian times, I think. But yes, a bit of chat, I believe, about the sort of pros and cons of the episode. I find it interesting that they introduced the whole talking to babies thing as a kind of joke in Matt Smith's era, and it's actually become like
that is an
it's kind of
thing,
grown and got more and more kind of important. Like it's still quite funny when it's brought up, but actually, because it's now kind of an accepted part of his skills, I suppose. So yeah. Just remember when it was introduced, Stormageddon, Dark Lord of All.
It's the great Stormageddon. But I that was quite a nice little nod motif there. Also, I think it's worth noting here that the other two-parters we've had have been very traditional two-parters with big, action-packed cliffhangers at the end of the first episode, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, is the Doctor or Clara or anybody going to get out alive, or what's happened and how are we going to resolve it? Whereas this time, it was much a different kind of animal, and in a very very well crafted way. It was a very interesting sort of, that sort of panning shot of her, sort of like that. There isn't a big bad ending to this. This is all about, right, what's going to happen to this character. The Doctor's made a decision, and what's that decision going to have? How big an impact is that going to have? So it leaves you in a bit more of a sort of thought-provoking stance at the end of the episode, if you get what I mean. It's very interesting. I'm not sure if I like it terribly, but
it's different.
It is different.
Whether or not you like it, it's different. So if people find themselves at the end of the episode just going, I don't like it, well, there's a reason you don't like it. It's because it's something new. and perhaps it's not to your taste. But I think it's interesting, as you point out, Ben, that that we... hang on, I've lost my train of thought.
Catch it!
Yeah,
Catch
it's
it!
it's interesting that this is a very, very character-driven thing. I thought the Vikings would be kind of a bit more of a bit more kind of central to the thing, but it is driven by the Doctor's kind of personal realizations in his, his kind of battles with the whole laws of time thing.
Yeah.
How I mean, the first time we ever saw the whole the rules of time, people complain that in New Who, particularly under Moffat, but in New Who, there's a lot of kind of rewriting history, which there didn't used to be in the old days. And the thing is, that is because the Time Lords are gone, and it's a bit more fluid. You can kind of push time a bit more, and we have seen that since Chris Eccleston, since Father's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and also, I think it's also worth noting that in this classic era, the Doctors were creating the history, and in the new era, I'd say that they were recreating the history. So someone had to create the history in the first place, but to then be recreated.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it makes it a more enjoyable spectacle, because you're constantly curious and constantly alert as to what paradox or sort of timey-wimey thing has come into play.
Timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey. Jordan's still here.
I am.
Give us a few words, Mr. Mock.
Of wisdom.
A few words of wisdom. Are you sure about wisdom?
A few words.
This is the Whovian vlog. We're not known for our wisdom especially.
A few words.
But yes, a few words.
Of the English language, preferably.
I just wanted to say that in the final scene with the big panorama around Ashilda...
that's her name, yeah.
Yeah. In the final shot, she slightly looks like Clara.
Oh, no! Can we do
I'm not sure if I'm the only one who's noticed that.
We have to hate her now. We have to hate her.
Hang on, we need the interlude, and now begins...
And now begins...
Oh, okay, you do it.
Clara bashing.
Yay!
By the Whovian vlog.
I think that the Clara bashing section needs to have its own jingle.
We should make it into a separate series.
Yeah, we should make it into a separate series. That would be fantastic.
Idea. Yeah. So we were talking about Clara. We were bashing Clara.
We were bashing Clara.
Yes. So what sort of potential issues do you think this sort of Clara look-alike thing? Do you think she's gonna morph into someone similar to her, or what? What do you think?
With the whole immortality thing, I don't think she'll age, will she?
No,
but
she won't.
If she does age,
yes,
my theory for now is that she is Clara.
I see.
Do you see where I'm coming from?
And what, that she becomes Clara? She's a younger version of Clara.
Yeah, so then she goes with Matt, and then because she's immortal, she can go through all of his time periods.
See, that poses a massive issue, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Because it means that Clara is immortal.
And that means we can't get rid of her.
And that's literally like the biggest nightmare of the Whovian vlog would be to have Clara as immortal, because it would mean that she always is able to come back, always. I see what you mean, though. Yeah, that's a distinct possibility. Because Maisie Williams is only 18, and Clara's Jennifer Coleman is, 30-odd?
Exactly.
So that would make sense. That could actually make logical sense. And would also explain a lot about how, the fact that she's obviously more than just some ordinary kind of person. In fairness, Clara isn't particularly normal. So maybe, I don't know. I mean, what would have to... somewhere along the line, she would have had to have had her memory sort of erased, because otherwise she would never have, been so surprised at the beginning.
But
unless she's a very good actor, and she's doppelganging the Doctor, and she's going to kill him or something.
But then that also would mean that Clara just interfered with her own timeline.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah.
We've got a strange theory right now, don't we?
Yeah, it's a very abstract theory, and I'm not quite sure whether or not I want it to come true or not, but I think it's quite an interesting one.
Exactly.
We should definitely discuss it because, to be fair, um, there's a certain amount of evidence, mainly by the fact that it looks like her, to suggest that that could be true. To be fair, Clara didn't really play much of a role in this episode at all.
No, I think she was just sort of there.
To prop up the Doctor in a couple of instances. Which is nice, because it means that we don't get a Clara-driven... to be fair, the other two parters have been very much driven around Clara and the Doctor's relationship, haven't they? And this time, we've got someone else for the Doctor to divulge and whatever, and it seems from the next time trailers that she is the center, that Maisie, that Ashilda is the center of attention in the next episode as well.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. I think it's a difficult one because on its own it feels like a very small, concentrated little episode that's fairly sound, but isn't mind-blowing by any stretch of the imagination, because it's, the story is quite bland, really, and the sort of underdog overdog sort of battle is something that we've seen before, and not just in Doctor Who, in a number of different franchises, but like it's that whole plot about them being killed is almost completely secondary and merely is there to provide the opportunity for Ashilda to be killed, isn't it, really? The whole point of the episode is to ensure that she is killed. But one thing I want to mention, though, is the fact that at the beginning of the episode, the Doctor seems to recognise her.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, which is this possible Clara thing. But I also think that could lend itself to this extended theory about why his face is his face.
Yeah.
It might have something to do with that. And I hope there's, when everybody watched that trailer for the new series, and she came up at the end and said, "Hello, old man. It took you a long time," and everybody's like, "Oh, it's Susan, or it's the Doctor's daughter, or something like that." Well, I still hope there's going to be some kind of fairly big reveal. Actually, to be fair, there is a scene where they're being held at sword point, or whatever that's called, and the guy says, "You brought your dad along as backup," which could be a simple misunderstanding, which most people would expect it to be, being in the next time trailer, or it could actually be a double bluff, and it could actually be true.
Exactly.
We don't really know yet.
It's quite interesting. Like,
it is quite interesting.
In terms of continuity and story-wise, this episode has been quite...
bare?
Yeah.
Best way to describe it. Simple. Nothing wrong with it, but not a hell of a lot right with it either. But it's certainly a talking point. It's very, very interesting stuff. Very interesting stuff. It's not the natural audience viewer hit that other episodes in this series have been, in a sense. It's certainly one for the more thoughtful, ponderous Doctor Who fan, rather than the sort of armchair sofa, I'm going to watch Doctor Who and then not think about it for the next week until the next one comes out, sort of view. But it's nice to have a bit of a one where we can sort of us hardcore fans can really get our teeth into, I suppose. So are we ready for the ratings or not? Or
I think we should definitely rate it.
Yeah. So
do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I would say, in terms of the plot, it's a fairly simple plot. So I'm going to give it a sort of a 6 for the plot. In terms of the acting, Well, it was very good. That's going to be a 9. I think overall I'm going to give this episode a 7, principally because it is it's not quite finished because it isn't finished, and the second part is almost always viewed more favourably because of the fact that it is actually the completion of the story. So I'm pretty sure that it will end up becoming a 9 or an 8. But for now I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay. I think I'm going to go plot-wise 7 as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. There just wasn't enough of it, if you
No.
know what I mean.
Yeah.
Which obviously is going to be sorted out in the next part.
Yeah.
And then acting, I have to give it about an 8 or a 9. Because the Vikings were quite stereotypical, and I found that quite humorous. So overall, I'm going to go about 7 or 8.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis.
Well, I would give this episode a 6, maybe a 7 at a push for the plot, because like you say, I mean, it was entirely character driven and not the Vikings and all that didn't really play into it. But we had this kind of resolution of Capaldi realizing, the 12th Doctor realizing his face meant, and I mean it's kind of obvious, but this kind of that final resolution that's been going since Deep Breath. So I mean that was good. Yeah, but yeah, it was character driven. It was absolutely character driven. So I would kind of give it a 7 because even though the character stuff was good, the actual plot, the whole Viking thing wasn't particularly great. You know, it was.
Yeah.
But I'd give the writing. I can't really judge the writing because obviously the fact that she's still alive and she's immortal and she's out there somewhere is a huge deal, and I think that's really, really great. But I think that the full implications of that we have to wait until next week. So I would give the plot probably an 8, but I think next week it might go up drastically. What I think of it.
Right.
And as for anything else, an overall mark. Yeah, well, I suppose I gave it a sort of 6 and 8, sort of a 7, I guess, for an overall. But again, all my marks will probably change next week with the new episode because that's just how two-parters work, and there's a lot of them this year.
Yeah, and I think overall, I think the general consensus between the three of us is really that it's it shows promise.
Yeah.
It has to live up to this promise.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it may, there's a big chance that it might actually drop marks in the conclusion. You know?
It is a possibility. As long as it's done right, I think the next part will be tremendous.
Yeah. But it has to be right.
Yeah.
And I really hope it is. Because I just do. I don't like it when Doctor Who is bad. I like it when Doctor Who is good because it means that I get to enjoy it more. But I genuinely hope that it's good, and because with such a big mystery surrounding the whole character development, it's got to live up to that potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
I think that's pretty much us out, isn't it?
That is pretty much us.
Yes.
Thank you for listening and watching the Whovian vlog.
Thank you
We'll
very much.
be here next week.
Yeah.
Probably Sunday.
For the woman who lived, and our
For the
review
woman
of
who
that.
lived.
Yes.
So,
So,
goodbye.
yes, goodbye and see you then.